Hey, Hotep. This is the Truth May Hurt. My name is Raymond Witcher, and I will be your host. I want to show you a few things that. One second. I want to show you a few things that. Well, I want to show you one thing, not a few, that I don't think most of us have ever thought about or considered. I've mentioned many times that we need to reestablish our spirituality and our spiritual connection with our ancestors and our Creator. I've mentioned that every thought has a source. The thought is either coming from our Creator, it could be coming from our own level of consciousness and awareness, it could be coming from our ancestors, and it could be coming from the destroyer. And I've mentioned that on now that I understand this connection, now that I understand this link that is never ending, it can't be destroyed. It can be tampered with, which it has in regards to us having that relationship, because we were taught you shouldn't have that relationship. We don't need that spiritual connection with our ancestors. And in order to have a connection with our Creator, it has to come through the church. It can't come outside of the church. The whole misconception of the church is a big problem, because God said, I do not dwell in temples made by hands. Church in its existence should only be a place of fellowship, not a place of worship. Why would I worship in a place that God isn't? I can fellowship there, meaning I can get together with other people of like thinking minds and we can have a service, but it's not worshiping, it's fellowshipping. Okay? Now, this video that I'm making now, I'm titling it because I just found it out. And the reason that I haven't given you the title yet is because I haven't explained to you how I came to this. I was in bed and just thoughts came to me. They always do. But this particular thought was around addiction. It was centered around addiction. What is addiction? We only associate addiction with a drug, alcohol, tobacco, cocaine, crack, meth, opiates, heroin, Xanax. We only sex, gambling. So I'm not going to say only associated with drugs, because it's associated with sex, it's associated with drugs. But how many people have ever associated addiction with religion? How many people think religion can be addictive or is addictive? Look at the behavior. This is what alarms me. I see the same behavior in most Christians that I do in the disease of addiction. Now, I have some experience in that because I've been addicted to opiates. I have been addicted to alcohol. I have had my battles with addiction. I am a recovering addict. Okay? But I see the same behaviors. It's not, Christians don't believe there's anything wrong with them. They believe. That's what makes believing so dangerous. That's what makes addiction so dangerous. You do not need anything to believe. You don't need any evidence. You don't need any objective evidence. You don't need any facts. The only thing you need to do is say, I believe or I don't believe. Okay? Even when someone shows you facts and you're in a belief system and it goes against what you believe, people are not going to accept it. Based on what? A belief. Solely on what you have been taught to believe by your oppressors, by your enslavers, by the people that have done everything they can to destroy you. Okay? You and I did the same thing. That's why I can recognize it. That's why I can say what I'm seeing. Because once you get outside of the circumference of the realm of your consciousness and your understanding, and everything that you believe you know is within this circle, you can't get them out of that circle. You can't convince anyone that there is more outside of this circle to know than it is inside this circle. And when you present something to anybody that is in a belief system that is outside of what they believe, they're going to tell you, I've never heard that. That's a sign of this supports what I'm saying. Just because you haven't heard it, just because you haven't seen it, doesn't mean it's not true. It's just outside of this circle. And as long as religion, I'm kind of upset because I'm watching people that I really love and care about just practice this disease of addiction. I've put a lot of effort into trying to show my family, my friends, the truth. And I've been hurt, okay, by the responses, okay, by the coldness that Raymond has must lost his mind. Raymond is going crazy. Well, you have to be willing to take that, and you have to be willing to accept that, and you have to prepare yourself for it. So I'm letting you know, it's not going to be easy, okay? But it's for me. I can only tell you for me, it's a lot easier for me to be by myself alone than it is to be surrounded by people practicing addiction. I can't hang around with people that are drinking and doing drugs. I don't. They can't come to my house with a 6-pack of beer or a 5th of Jack Daniels. They can't. They can't come with a crack pipe and a bag of cocaine and make lines on the kitchen table and a plate. They can't come here and do that. I wouldn't come to your house. I'm not coming because I know I'm walking into a place that's dangerous for me. Okay? Well, it's the same thing when you are trying to stay sober from Christianity, when you're trying to stay sober from Islam, when you're trying to stay sober from Judaism, when you're trying to stay sober from any of these religions that have convinced you that this is the only way to heaven, this is the only way to God. They are lying to you. Okay? They are flat out lying to you. I want to show you something, all right? So that you can understand what I'm trying to tell you. Let's see, which one is it first? All right. I want you to look at this. Okay, so I'm in bed early this morning because I can't sleep a lot. All right, my mind is too active right now for me to get uninterrupted sleep. Okay, and this morning, I guess about 3 o'clock, the thought came to me, your family is dealing with addiction. I'm keeping it in my family because the majority of people that I try to deal with, to show this to, that is my responsibility to show this to, is my family. Okay? You always start with your family. And I said, everything that I'm experiencing when I try to interact with my family and I try to give them some information. Now keep in mind, I'm not breaking the rules. Everything that I'm showing them is right out of the Bible word for word. But when I read it to them and I show them how ridiculous it is to believe that Jesus is on his way back, oh man, I get shunned. I don't mind being shunned. I would rather be shunned than be accepted for being a part of a lie. I stand on the truth. I worked in quality assurance 27 years, and it's about the truth. It's about, do you meet the requirements or not? If you don't meet the requirements, then you either need to meet the requirements or you need to change the requirements. You need to write a engineering change notification, a ECN, and you need to submit it and say why this no longer needs to be this way. And I'm amending it for this reason. Okay? So it hurts. So I looked up, and you can do your own search. Is religion addictive? And it says religious addiction is an unhealthy obsession with religious practices and beliefs that lead to compulsive behaviors, rigid thinking, and negative effects on a person's life, relationships, and mental health. Isn't that the same definition for a person that's on alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling? It creates an unhealthy obsession with practices and beliefs. You take religious out, you can put alcohol, you can put drugs, you insert anything in there and replace religion, all of it is the same. Man, So now I understand what I'm really fighting. I'm fighting with addicts. What is the first part of recovery? Recovery is about steps. You have 12 steps. The first step is admitting that I have a problem. I am addicted. You're not going to find a Christian that's going to tell you that I'm addicted. They are so happy. They have so much confidence. Now, other than confidence, that's all you have, because you don't have any proof, you don't have any facts. You have been convinced that you have the word of God from the men who want to conquer the world. Now, I'm not keeping this in a racial context, because the same thing they did to blacks, they did to whites first. The whites that feel that, it doesn't affect me, it affected you first. First people that Christians went around killing were European whites. Weren't blacks. They hadn't even gotten into Africa yet. Okay? It's horrible the way they treated you. And I have empathy and I have compassion for what they did to you. If we keep turning our backs on what we see done to other people, it won't be long before it walks into your house. Okay? So I understand now, and I thank my Creator for giving me this thought, because it was a burden for me to try to understand, why am I being rejected for showing you the truth objectively, not on what I believe, because I'm not asking anybody, and I would tell anybody, do not get out of a belief system to go into another belief system. So I'm not coming to people telling them, I want you to believe this and don't believe that. I'm telling you that you shouldn't believe anything. I'm getting my head chopped off. Okay? Because when you're dealing with Christians, they're going to push you to the edge, standing on their belief, because they feel and believe. This is what makes believing so dangerous. They believe they are right. Okay? So it hurt me when I had to snap at the pastor. On my last video, I mentioned that my wife had been in a Bible study, and the pastor admitted to me, well, he asked me, do I really believe? After I had shown him Mark 9 verse 1, and you look these up. After I showed him Mark chapter 9 verse 1, Mark 16 verses 17 through 20. After I showed him Luke 21 verses 30 and 31, it might be 31 and 32, where Jesus says that he was talking to people and he said, this generation shall not die. Now, he wasn't talking, when preachers preach this, they preach it like that it's this generation that Jesus was. Well, Jesus is not talking to us. Jesus, this concept of Jesus, because Jesus never existed, this concept of Jesus, when he's speaking in the Bible, he wasn't speaking to anybody in 2025. He was speaking to the people back during that time. And the preachers will preach this out of context and make you believe Jesus is talking to you. He wasn't. Okay? So after I have shown this pastor, after he had finished a 1-year Bible study with my wife, I said, I need you to explain to me these things, and how can the Bible be historical unless somebody can show me people older than 2,025 years old? He didn't answer my question. Well, he asked the question. He asked me, he said, Raymond, do you really believe? Do you really think I believe the Bible is historical? And he said, I don't. I said, I don't know what you believe, but I know what you preach. You're preaching this out of the pulpit as historical. And you're preaching this through a Zoom meeting in my house to my wife, who believes every word you're saying. So either you're lying to me or you're lying to her. Man, it turned into an explosion here a few days ago, because I heard him on the phone in a Bible study with my wife, and he's saying, I saw Jesus. Lying. If you saw Jesus, how are you alive to tell anybody about it? Because now everybody believes Jesus is God. And God says nobody has seen his face or heard his voice and lived. I do not play these games. I didn't play them when I was in my career. If I was the only one that stood up on a space program when I know it doesn't meet the requirement of the drawing, I'll stand by myself, because I'm not putting my signature on that document saying that Raymond Witcher certifies that this is ready to fly in space. Because I know that if it fails, they're not coming back to you, they're coming back to me to explain this mess. I take it very seriously. Okay, my responsibilities, and my responsibility as my family is to tell them the truth. Now, let me show you. I had to come back and edit this video because I had some, what I was going to show you is I had gone on YouTube and pulled up some videos of children singing Christmas carols and children at Easter egg hunts and activities in the church for children. But when I loaded it to YouTube, it was blocked because of copyright material. So I had to cut that out. But I would like for you, this is the video that they cut out. All right. The addiction that no one wants to talk about, hear about, or know about, religion. That's this video. But you couldn't see it because I had some copyright material in it. So I said, well, let me cut that out and show you what I would like you. Well, you don't need to look it up. We've all seen how parents, and I'm not bashing parents, okay? Because this is what we were taught to do. I'm just showing you why we shouldn't do it, okay? Why I no longer can do it, why I no longer can sit in a church and watch these things happen, knowing what it's doing to the child's mind. It's doing the same thing to the child's mind that was done to the parent's mind when they were a child, okay? And once we indoctrinate, or the indoctrination starts with the child from birth, in that child's mental development, once they become adult, once they have children, it's hard to break this cycle, because until you come out of this circle, you are not gonna see anything wrong with it. Because how many people have heard, if it was good enough for my mom and my daddy, it's good enough for me, okay? This is psychology. You have to understand that when we're dealing with religion, we cannot leave out that this is psychology. Okay? This is a way to control how one's mind thinks, processes, and rationalizes making decisions. Doesn't make it right. Okay? And I'm showing you that it's wrong. Okay? So when we look at how this plays a role from the time a child is born till the time that an adult dies, and when I can show you that none of these things are centered around Jesus Christ or what God said, it's just not. Regardless of how much we like it, love it, we can love it or leave it. And I choose to leave it, okay? Because I know how much damage it's doing. I can see it, okay? It is an addiction. It's no other way to, it's the best way to identify it. I'm not saying it can't be identified in other ways, because it can. But when you want to get to what is going on a clinical, medical term basis, it's psychological. We have been psychologically trained in whichever religion we were indoctrinated to. That's why Muslims say that the only way to heaven is if you accept Allah. Christians say the only way to heaven is if you accept Jesus Christ. Jews, everybody has their own criteria for what is required to go to heaven. Those that practice Hindu, you have to accept Krishna, or you don't get to go to heaven. It's the same psychological story. To do the same thing. Control your mind, okay? To give you something outside of yourself that you need to turn to get you out of whatever you got in, or whatever you were put in, or whatever circumstances surround you, okay? Do you think the people that live in poverty or live in an oppressed area or an oppressed country, do you think that they are not praying for whichever God they choose to bring them out of that situation? Do you see it happening? Yeah, we have a lot of people that are stand up and testify, if it wasn't for the Lord, it wouldn't have happened. You were trained to think that way. You were trained to believe that. Your reality is within the circumference of this circle. Even though within the compass of this circle, most of it is not reality. It's reality to you because that's what your parents taught you. We have so much confidence in our parents, and we should. I'm just telling the parents that we need to do a better job. Okay? We need, just because the alarm clock goes off doesn't mean we have to wake up. Well, when the alarm clock goes off, it will wake us up, but it doesn't mean that we have to get up. Okay, and until we make a conscious decision that, man, it's time to wake up from this post-slavery nightmare, okay? This post-slavery disorder, okay? It's hard to tell a person that has been doing something for all of their life that what you have been doing for all of your life is wrong. People will say, man, I don't want to hear that. I've been doing this all my life. When I was in quality, I'm going to tell you this because I reference what I know, okay? I would go to a new company and work, or when I would go to a new company and work, there have been, I'm not going to say a lot of times, but many times that I go in and I start rejecting things that the previous quality engineer was accepting. The workers will say, well, why are you rejecting that? I say, because it doesn't meet the requirements. Well, I've always done it this way. And the other quality engineer that was here, he bought off on it. Why can't you buy off on it? He did. And I tell him, because it doesn't meet the requirement. This is not personal. This is my job. Yeah, but I've been doing it all of this way. And I go, shh, 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 shh. Don't let everybody hear you say that. That you, all of these years you've been working, doing this wrong. Okay? I understand that you have been doing it this way ever since you've been with this company. You've been here 10 years. You've been here 15 years. You're telling everybody you've been doing it wrong for 15 or 20 years. And I'm telling you that it doesn't meet the requirement. I'm telling you that the previous quality engineer missed it. It doesn't make it right because he signed off on it. Okay? If you want to take this to somebody else that wants to override me and they want to sign off on it, I don't have a problem with you going to somebody else. But I do have a problem with you trying to tell me to sign off on something because this is the way you've always done it. And the previous engineers that reviewed this work approved it. Well, shame on you and shame on them. But will be no shame on me. It's not arrogance. It's I have to have evidence. I have to evaluate everything by the engineering standard on my job. I have to take this Bible and I have to take Christianity and do it the same way. If you have been reading it wrong all your life, maybe not reading it wrong because when you read it, you read it. But if the people that have been in your circle, that your pastor, your deacons, your spiritual advisors have been teaching this to you wrong all of these years, it is not my fault. How can I say this? My shortfall was I trusted the pastor because my parents told me to trust the pastor. You got to trust the pastor. He's the one that can explain it to you. And the whole time that I'm listening to him, and the whole time that I'm letting him read it to me and explain it to me, believed it. Until I asked God to start showing me the things that he wants me to see. And I guess this was my ancestors telling me to do this, even though I didn't know where this thought came from. When I prayed that prayer, God, show me the things that you want me to see. Show me what the teachers aren't teaching and the preachers aren't preaching. And I started reading and studying with people outside of that historical teaching. Everything fell in place. I rejected it strongly when I first started learning the truth because the truth is something that I had never heard. Okay? But in the background that I have of quality assurance, I had to accept the truth. I have never accepted a lie. I have never accepted things that didn't meet. See, listen, when you're talking about accepting and rejecting, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about either accepting religion or rejecting religion. It's the same thing in manufacturing, in space, in the Department of Defense, in the car industry. Everything has criteria, acceptable criteria, rejectable criteria. And on the acceptable side criteria, you have your preferred. This means that this really is at the top of the acceptable range. You have your preferred, you have your acceptable, then you have what is rejectable. So anything that's acceptable is good. Anything that is preferred is better. But anything that's below acceptable, it fails. You have to not rework it. You have to correct the error. Okay? You have to go back and have someone fix it. Why can't you do that with Christianity? It's because you believe everything is in that Bible is God's word. You believe that God inspired men that won't inspire you because you were taught that. It doesn't mean you were taught right. Okay? Let me give you another example. When it comes down to, what's a good one? When it comes down to us finally getting to the point that we can accept that, hey, there's more to know than what I know. There's more to know than what I was taught. Some of the things that I was taught is wrong. You'll start seeing things as they are, for what they are. Okay? So an example is 300 years ago, 200 years ago, if someone were to tell you, man, I'm gonna fly. I'm gonna fly like the bird. They'll tell you you're crazy. If you were to tell people that, man, I'm going to the moon, it is outside of the realm and the circumference of their understanding during that period in time, because we are talking about periods of time. Okay? And during the period of time 250 years ago, during that period of time, having an airplane was unimaginable. Having a spaceship or a rocket that could launch you into space and a capsule that could take you to the moon, that could take you to Mars, it was outside of your realm and the circumference of your understanding of what you know, or what you believe, because what you know today may not be true in 50 years. Okay? So we can't get stuck in believing that we know all that there is to know. We know what we know during that space, time, and age. Okay? Look at today. If 75 years ago, 100 years ago, you were to tell people, well, you're not always going to need money to buy. They have no perception of a credit card. They have no perception of a debit card. Matter of fact, the two guys that did the engineering and development and the design on the ATM debit cards where you go and get your money out of the machine, I've worked with both of those guys at the Naval Research Lab. One's name is John Kim. He's a brilliant, what was John? He was a reliability engineer. And Bobby Prettyman, I worked with him in quality assurance engineering at the Naval Research Lab. Okay? During that time, no one had the perception that one day, instead of me having to go to a bank and get my money out of a bank from the bank, that one day I'll be able to go in any store and put this piece of plastic in this machine and put in some numbers and put up how much money I want to withdraw from my account, and it'll give me that money. If you told somebody that 50, 60, 80 years ago, they'd tell you you're crazy. If you were to tell somebody that I'm going to be able to go in a store and I'm not going to need any money in my pocket, and I'm going to be able to pick up all of the items that I want and put them in a basket, take them to the cashier tells me I owe him $150, and I take a piece of plastic out of my pocket and give it to the cashier, or swipe it down through a piece of electronic equipment, and it's going to read my card, know how much money I have in the bank, deduct what I owe, and I can walk out of the store. So don't give reality so much credit, because reality is related to the time and age that we are right now. And you can see that we're growing out of, we're out of Pisces now. We're going into Aries, and things are going to change drastically. All right. So I wanted to edit this in because I had to remove. I was wondering why this video isn't playing. It's because I had a red flag that the videos that I had pulled up to show you all of the children dressed up in all of the Christmas gear, like some of the children are the three wise men. And then they had a baby, a real baby crying, laying in a manger, and all of the children are around the manger. And one is dressed up like he's Joseph, and one is dressed up like she's Mary. Okay, and these children are going through this experience of the birth of Jesus Christ, who never existed. Remember, let me ask you this. Do you think there could have been a Jesus before there was a J to spell it? Could there have been a Jesus before they spelled Jesus? The letter J wasn't an alphabet until 1524. Jesus never showed up in a Bible until 1746. But that's your Savior? All right. You're not going to be saved by Jesus. You will be saved when you realize that the teachings of the Bible are mythical, and everything that they're telling you that Jesus is going to do are yours to do. Matter of fact, if you just read the Bible correctly, it tells you Jesus, the story of Jesus tells you that you're going to do work far greater than he. Of course you are, because he didn't do any work. He doesn't exist. All right? Okay. I'm going to extend this video because I don't want you to have to look up anything. I want everything to be right here where you can see it. And if you want to do a little bit more research on it, which I would encourage you to do, because I'm only trying to introduce you to things to show you why I can't be in Christianity, why I can't be a part of Easter, why I can't be a part of Christmas, and all of these things, because first of all, they were made up. But I just can't tell you they made it up. I have to show you. When it comes to Easter, okay, so right here you can see that Easter is generally associated with themes of fertility, renewal, and change of the seasons. And as I mentioned, Easter is centered around the equinox. The equinox is, and I did a presentation on this, so it's not centered around when Jesus died and was resurrected. It's centered around the season. It's telling you here, all right? And if you want to know more, who was the goddess? It was the reconstructing any Anglo-Saxon religion cults or rituals, is that they had no written language, okay? And if you really go on down through it, I'm trying to find, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but when they were doing this celebration, celebrating the goddess fertility, during this Anglo-Saxon religious cult period, before it became Easter, part of that celebration tradition was, it was legal for men to rape women. I mean, you could rape a woman that never wanted to have anything to do with you or be with you. You could hunt her down and rape her. And nudity and things like that were part of this celebration, because it's all about fertility, it's all about sex, and it's all about, has nothing to do with Jesus. Not one thing. Okay? Okay, you see here, the goddess of the equinox. I'm telling you that this is all centered around spring, when everything starts renewing itself. When the grass starts growing, the trees start blooming, the leaves start growing, the animals want to have sex. That's what it's centered around. Don't be fooled and don't be tricked. All right? So you can pull this up and look at it. All right? See, here it is about rabbits. One of the most easily recognizable symbols, one of the most recognizable Easter symbols is the Easter bunny. All right, originated in Germany, or Easter hare. It made its way to America via Germany, immigrants, and was rebranded as a tamer, more adorable Easter rabbit. It has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. Okay, it is a spell. It came from heathenism. Okay, people practicing sex. Okay, okay. Among the Greeks, hares were associated with goddesses, with the goddess of the hunt. You can read these things. Okay, we have to. Well, you don't have to. Nobody can force you to. But as long as you stay in this little Christian box, that all you need to do is believe, you're in trouble. Your children are in trouble.